Welcome to this podcast on forgiveness, presented by TCSIG in partnership with Anthem EAP. My name is Carla Pariser. I do have a degree in psychology and an MBA, and have continued my quest to learn about mind-body relationship, work-body balance through yoga and meditation. And I'm very excited to talk to you today about forgiveness. I'm going to cover the steps to forgiveness, deciding to forgive, what if you need to ask for forgiveness, and then I'm going to close with a quote like I like to do. So let's get started. Who hasn't been hurt by the actions or words of another? But these wounds can leave lasting feelings of resentment and bitterness and even anger, sometimes, honestly, even hatred. But if you hold on to that pain, you might be the one who pays most dearly. So if you can embrace forgiveness, then you can help yourself embrace peace and hope. So what is forgiveness? Well, it means different things to different people, but in general, it involves an intentional decision to let go of resentment and anger. The act that hurt or offended you might always be with you, but working on forgiveness can lessen that act's grip on you. It can help free you from the control of the person who harmed you. Sometimes forgiveness might even lead to feelings of understanding, empathy, and compassion for the one who hurt you. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting or excusing the harm that's been done to you. It also doesn't necessarily mean making up with the person who caused the harm. Forgiveness, though, brings a kind of peace that allows you to focus on yourself and helps you get on with life. So let's talk about the steps to forgiveness. One good thing to start with is gratitude. And one thing that I like to use that's very easy to do is a gratitude journal. So all you need is a piece of paper and a pen. And once a day, you write down 3 things that you're grateful for. And at first, it's pretty easy. Beautiful sunset, delicious dinner, lovely garden. But the key is you can't use the same thing twice. So you go along pretty good for a couple days, a couple weeks, and then comes the time where you really have to just sort of sit quietly, and all of the things that you have to be grateful for come to you. And sometimes we miss them because our lives are so crazy busy. We just don't have that quiet time to think about them. And it's just a wonderful experience to let them come into our minds and realize all the things that we truly have to be grateful for. Now, if writing in a journal isn't your thing, you can do the same thing when you brush your teeth or when you get your cup of coffee. But the point is, you're taking the time to bring those things to mind and realize all of the things that you have to be grateful for. Another good step is to adjust your expectations. Other people cannot make you happy. They may never, ever change, but you can change whether you end up feeling frustrated or offended. So adjust your expectations. Another step is to stop replaying and rethinking the event. When we do that, when we go over and over and over, a lot of times it's called rumination, or sometimes brooding or obsessing. And when you have that kind of thought process, it's like spinning wheels in mud. You just are not going to get anywhere. Another step is to use stress management techniques. One I've learned in my yoga class that I use all the time is very easy. You inhale for a count of 4, you hold that breath for a count of 4, and you exhale for a count of 4. And it just gives your brain a chance to relax and calm down, and you can think more clearly, and you can say, okay, let's figure out what we're going to do next. Honestly, I use that breathing when I'm stuck in the grocery store in a line or waiting in the gas station or lots of times during work. It's easy to do, doesn't take any equipment or anything at all, and is so very helpful. Another step to forgiveness is to use your imagination. You can use your imagination to have a safe, pretend conversation with the offender. And that way you've gotten it out of your system. And again, you can continue to move on. I want to say, as always, be kind to yourself. These things take time. You have to have patience and you have to have commitment. I've read many times that it takes 21 days for an action to become a habit. So that's a long time. So we can start off with all good intentions. Sometimes we have a little slip and then we start all over again. So be kind to yourself. Now, what about when we do decide to forgive? I think the most important thing is understanding that you will be the one that benefits. So when you relive that offense, does it make you get tense? Does your breathing change? Do you find maybe that you're snapping at somebody in the present because of the emotions that were generated from thoughts of the past? It's important that we understand that we're hurting ourselves. And we can continue, though, to live in the past with the hurt and the tenseness, or we can choose to live forward. Put the past in its place by moving forward with forgiveness. That way, you're controlling your life in a positive way rather than remaining in the victim zone. So you think about what happened, you move forward, you identify your feelings, and really, most importantly, stop living in the past. Now, you might be asking, does forgiveness guarantee reconciliation? Well, if the hurtful event involves someone whose relationship you value, forgiveness may lead to reconciliation, but honestly, that's not always the case. Reconciliation might be impossible if the offender has died or is unwilling to communicate with you. In other cases, reconciliation just might not be appropriate. Still, forgiveness is possible, even if reconciliation isn't. And you could also be saying, well, what if the person I'm forgiving doesn't change? Getting another person to change is not the point of forgiveness. It's about focusing on what you can control in the here and the now. So it helps if you can think of forgiveness more about how it can change your life by bringing you peace and happiness. Forgiveness can take away the power that the other person continues to have in your life. Now, what if you're the person who needs to ask for forgiveness? Well, if you're truly sorry for something you've said or done and want forgiveness, consider reaching out to those that you've harmed. Speak of your sincere sorrow or regret. Ask for forgiveness without making excuses. You can't force someone to forgive you. Others need to move to forgiveness in their own time. Remember, forgiveness is a process. Whatever happens, though, always commit to treating others with compassion, empathy, and respect. But when you do need to ask for forgiveness, here are a couple of things to think about. Do it promptly as you can, because you don't really want to let too much time go by. You cannot make someone forgive you, but you can at least try to use the I words to take responsibility for your actions and the fact that you caused emotional pain, like, I am sorry, I apologize, I messed up. Another tip is to make sure that you identify your error or offense. You want to make sure as you're apologizing that the other person knows exactly what you're apologizing. You want to be on the same page. And then it helps to describe the specific steps that you are going to take to improve. And finally, you really have to walk the talk. You have to earn the forgiveness. You have to do that with credibility. So you want to make sure that whatever you're saying, you do it every single day in every single way that you can. An apology is meaningless if the same behavior is repeated. So forgiveness is a commitment to change, and it takes practice, like I said. To move toward forgiveness, you might recognize the value of forgiveness and how it can improve your life. You can identify what needs healing and who you want to forgive. You might decide to join a support group or see a counselor. Definitely acknowledge your emotions about the harm done to you and recognize how those emotions affect your behavior and work to release them. Choose to forgive the person who's offended you. Release the control and the power that the offending person and situation have had in your life. You could also be asking me now, well, what happens if I can't forgive someone? Forgiveness can be hard, especially if the person who hurt you doesn't admit wrongdoing. If you find yourself stuck, you could practice empathy. Try seeing the situation from the other person's point of view. Or you could ask yourself about the circumstances that may have led the other person to behave in such a way. Maybe you would have reacted similarly if you faced the same situation. And one I like best is to reflect on times when others have forgiven you. I always like to end my podcast with a quote. This is a wonderful quote for what we're talking about. Forgive others, not because they deserve forgiveness, but because you deserve peace. And that is attributed to Buddha. I want to thank you so much for listening to this podcast on forgiveness, brought to you by TCSIG in relationship with Anthem EAP. You can always reach out to your EAP by calling 1-800-999-7222. Or you can visit the website www.anthemeap.com/TCSIG. Thank you for spending the time with me today. This is Carla Pariser. So long until next time.